celebrating 25 years of fearless and independent journalism. Hello, and thank you for joining us from wherever you may be this afternoon. We're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Here's what's coming up this hour. Mayor of Accra discredits claims fumigation exercise in the city's markets will merely kill rodents, as he insists the chemicals being used are meant to rid the markets of coronavirus. An exercise, he says, won't stop now. We'll be taking you all over the capital, where at least 136 markets and bus stations are being disinfected today. And we'll tell you why military personnel were deployed for this exercise. Also, in this edition of the show, the impact of coronavirus soars by the day across the world. We're going to take a look at the Ghanaian market, where the prices of food and goods have shot up and traders are stranded following closure of borders. Now we're going to take your calls as our experts answer your questions on coronavirus. And globally, Italy continues to record deaths. United States activates National Guard in New York, California, and Washington, where residents are ordered to stay home. We're live this afternoon in Germany as Chancellor Angela Merkel is in day 2 of her quarantine after her doctor tested positive for coronavirus. Right, let's get started. The number of MPs ordered to go into self-quarantine has shot up to 10. The Speaker of Parliament is urging the public not to visit their MPs. Professor Michael Quay has confirmed Parliament is making arrangements to relocate temporarily to the conference centre as part of measures to curb the spread of COVID-19 among MPs. Now, let's connect with Joseph Owoku-Gakpo to learn a little bit more about that. My colleague joins me now on Skype. Now, Joseph, tell us how exactly is Parliament hoping that the change of location will help to stem the spread of COVID-19?
So, as the Speaker Professor explained earlier today, one thing that they've been advised health experts to do is to ensure adequate spacing, even as they sit for proceedings to run, in the light of the fact that there are more than 25 of them sitting at the same time, and the numbers are a bit kind of crowded. So today, for example, he did direct that we should see a situation where even in the chamber, particularly when a lot of the MPs are not around and there are empty seats, when a member of parliament takes his seat, is to ensure that there are at least 2 empty seats between himself and the next MP, as a way to ensure that they are not close to one another and that they are not exactly breathing over themselves and all of that. But he's been indicating that going forward, the conversation around possibly using the Accra International Conference Center, which is a bigger venue, provides a bigger space, is something that is still under conversation, and that if it becomes extremely necessary, they may be forced to relocate the sitting when it comes to Parliament to the International Conference Center, so that then there'll be enough space for MPs to actually undertake their duties. He's also been outlining other measures they are taking to protect MPs. He's been cautioning members of the public at a media briefing a while ago to desist from showing up in the House to come look for their members of Parliament. He's also been indicating that there was a fumigation exercise in the House over the weekend to ensure that all possible microbes are killed through that particular fumigation exercise, and that going forward, he says the health team here in Parliament is on standby. They are taking advice from the medical officials. He's applying the best standards when it comes to the World Health Organization, all as part of measures to ensure that MPs are safe, even as they go about their duties to help the nation deal with the problem with the spread of the coronavirus.
Can you tell us which 10 MPs have been asked to self-quarantine?
But the interesting bit is that this was a question that was put to Professor Michael Quay at the media briefing he addressed a while ago, where he made the point that 10 MPs have been asked to go into quarantine. Another 5 members of staff of Parliament have also been asked to go into quarantine. But he said that he's unable to disclose the details of the individuals in question because it's not good practice. You would recall that last week that was on Thursday, the majority leader, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, actually disclosed the names of two MPs, Nessa Mahama Ture, who is actually the MP for Ayawaso East, as well as another member of parliament, Dr. Robert Kwanleb, who is the deputy ranking member on the health committee, and also the member of parliament for Binduri. He disclosed these two individuals as two MPs who are actually going into quarantine. But since the number shot up to 10, and that question was put to the Speaker of Parliament earlier today specifically about who the other 8 MPs are, he refused to give those specific details. But he's been assuring that this is something that the MPs themselves have agreed to do. They are getting advice from public health officials on how to go about it. There is absolutely no cause for alarm, and that he's confident that the said MPs will be safe. But at that media briefing, so he's actually been addressing a media briefing to brief journalists on Parliament's preparedness to avoid a spread even as MPs continue to sit. We did put a question to him about the measures that were laid out in a memo to him that the majority, the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, actually did put out over the weekend. You recall that when the minority leader put out that letter, it was a memo he addressed to the Speaker, Professor Michael Quay, laying out a number of measures to help deal with the problem and recommending even for the setting up of a bipartisan committee. To quote the Speaker of Parliament, he said, "This is a document that, although the minority leader claims he has sent to him and journalists have published it, it's not come to his table," and that he's surprised that something that the minority leader says are suggestions on how to help the nation get out of this problem has actually come to his desk, but then he has not seen it. But he has been making the point that Parliament is supporting the executive to deal with the problem, and that he's cautious about avoiding any situation of politicizing what exactly is happening, even as they take the necessary steps alongside the executive arm of government to protect Ghanaians generally and parliamentarians specifically.
We saw images of the Speaker of Parliament wearing a face mask not so long ago. Was Parliament advised by scientists on that? Did a scientist tell the Speaker of Parliament to put on a mask in Parliament?
So at the media briefing today, the Director of Health here in Parliament was also present, and himself and the Speaker, as well as other officials in Parliament, are the ones who addressed the media. And the indication they gave was that the measures that are being rolled out, including the wearing of the mask, is coming directly as advice from the head of medical service here in Parliament, in conformity with what they say are standards of the World Health Organization. You would recall as well that they indicated that they are distributing hand sanitizers all over Parliament. That's also another measure he indicates is something that they've been advised by medical officials to do. And he says he will continue to roll out the necessary measures as they are being advised by health officials. There was, for example, a question to him about the fumigation that was done and whether it will be repeated anytime soon or what the plan is. And again, he said that following advice of various medical professionals, they'll come to a decision as to when again to do that particular fumigation. So the indication Professor Michael Quay gives, Kojo, is that all the measures they're rolling out, from the face mask that himself is wearing, it's not just him, all members of Parliament are wearing that face mask. Some of it are being distributed to journalists who are reporting from the House in the press and the public gallery. These are all based on advice that they've gotten from various health officials, which is how come they are rolling out those specific measures.
Is there any possibility of Parliament being shut down or being held remotely? You've already mentioned that they are considering possibly using the conference center, but is there a plan for a shutdown if necessary?
Professor Michael Quay, the Speaker, and the Majority Leader and Leader of Government Business, is also the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, at that media briefing, completely ruled out the possibility of the House shutting down. And to quote Professor Michael Quay, he says even in times of war, Parliament is supposed to be sitting in order to making legislation and to guide the executive arm of government, even as they roll out necessary measures to help deal with the situation. And so that is something that is being ruled out completely. In fact, there was a question to Professor Michael Quay about how he repeatedly complains about absenteeism in Parliament, which has become an issue today as well. I'm sure we'll get to that a little later. And if members of parliament feel unsafe and they take decisions that they would not want to show up on the floor because it's too many people gathering and crowding at the same time. Professor Michael Quay virtually dismissed that point about any MP expressing unsafety over MPs congregating on the floor and made the point that the health officials are on standby. They put in place the necessary measures to help ensure that MPs are protected. So the bit about Parliament shutting down, it's not likely that's going to happen. But just to give the heads up, per the original timetable that Parliament has, they began sitting on the 28th of January, and this particular session of Parliament is supposed to come to a close by the 3rd of April, which is sometime next weekend. So it looks like they're going the full haul until this week passes and next week passes all the way to the end. They're sticking by the timetable that they laid out at the beginning of the year as to when they're hoping to stay in Parliament. When they eventually go on that break on the 3rd of April, MPs are supposed to be away for the next 3 months before they resume. But for now, they're sticking to that wholeheartedly.
Right. Now, there are some members of Parliament who are, well, quite advanced in age. Did the Speaker talk about any precautions that are being taken to ensure that those who are most vulnerable to this disease have some extra care and protection?
Specifically in terms of extra care to the aged, it's not something that Professor Michael Quay laid out. He says the protection plans and strategies that are being laid out applies to all members of parliament, people sanitizing their hands, people wearing warm, face masks when they show up, members of the public not coming around to parliament, and the fumigation exercise is something that he says is meant to protect MPs generally without any form of special attention when it comes to the aged. And Professor Michael Quay remains very confident that he thinks those measures will protect all members of parliament and that there isn't the need for ordinary members of the public to panic about MPs and how they are crowded in the house, resulting in them being infected or anything of that sort. Kojo.
Right. Joseph, I want to thank you for your time with us. But before you go, you were saying something about absenteeism being an issue of its own today. What can you tell us?
So, yes, so earlier in the day, the minority chief whip, Muntaka Mubarak, raised a concern on the floor of parliament about the House not having the right quorum to work. You know, per the standing orders and also the constitution, parliament is allowed to sit when there are more than 1/3 of all members of parliament present. So when you look at 275, then that figure should be around the 80s in terms of how many MPs can form a quorum for business to actually run at any point in time. And then when they need to take decisions, then there should be more than half of all MPs on the floor. Earlier today, from my count, there were less than 60 MPs on the floor. And around that time, Muntaka Mubarak was attempting to raise the issue. Repeatedly, he tried to cut the speaker's eye to raise that particular concern about the House not having a quorum. So in the course of deliberations on the corporate insolvency bill, he actually virtually interrupted the proceedings with an outburst. And as other members of parliament were speaking on the floor, Muntaka Mubarak switched on the mic and was speaking on top of his voice. There was the attempt by the other MPs to actually pull brakes on him. That wasn't materializing. He made the point that he thought the speaker was acting lawlessly and unconstitutionally, and that the actions of the speaker by allowing the House to proceed with deliberations, even as they don't have a quorum, is shameful. And he made the point and virtually ranted for close to 2 minutes, even as efforts were made to stop him without him being stopped. So eventually, when he pulled the brakes on his ranting, if I could describe it as such, he walked out of the House. And a few minutes later, all the minority MPs on the floor, all of them followed suit. And eventually, there were just a little over 30 members of parliament on the floor conducting business. After he did that, the majority leader, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, commented on that. He thought that per the rules of the House, when you would want to comment on anything on the floor, you require the express permission of the Speaker. And that it was unfortunate that the minority chief whip did best out and actually handled issues the way he did, and he thought that it was completely out of place. This was a question that was put by journalists to Speaker Professor Michael Quay as a media briefing about the sort of relationship he has with those on the minority side. And for him, He doesn't exactly have any sour relationship with the minority MPs. He's a professional and he continues to do his job as a professional, and that's what he would continue to do. But clearly, the minority MPs were unhappy with him earlier today, and led by Muntaka Mubarak, they walked out of the House, and we wait to see what eventually happens. They walked out without returning the press briefing. We gather was supposed to have been one that was supposed to be done by both the majority and minority leadership, but the minority leadership were not present at that particular media briefing.
Right. Okay. Well, let's hear from the Speaker himself. This is what he said about the measures being taken.
A number of our people went abroad to do very legitimate business, but the circumstances of the time are such that as they return, we need to take certain measures. They are not punitive. They are protective of themselves, their families, and Parliament and its guests and workers and members as a whole. As we are speaking now, 10 members of Parliament who travel abroad in these circumstances have been asked to stay in self-isolation for the mandatory number of days. 5 members of staff who also went abroad and came back have been asked to do the same. This is for the protection of all the people here and the unsuspecting members of the public who may also happen to visit the premises for the genuine business that they have. So this mandatory self-quarantine of MPs and staff are in operation right now. We have also in the interim advised all members of Parliament to sit 2 seats away from each other so that we'll give ourselves some space. As you know, people are required by WHO regulations, etc., not to sit too close to each other, even family members. And we all have to obey in the interest of the public as a whole. We've also embarked upon fumigation exercise. In fact, yesterday, from morning to dusk, the whole premises were fumigated. The Job 600 Tower block annex, the chamber is annex, the Speaker's block, the new administration block, Parliament Police Station, Parliament Fire Station, the uncompleted Visitors Center, and all relevant places were fumigated fully yesterday under the close supervision of the Marshal, the doctor, and other relevant officials. We are asking, and you may notice that our air conditioners are rather low here. Normally it's a very cool room, but we are told by those who know better that the warmth is good for protecting ourselves against the virus. So we advise that all rooms should be kept relatively as warm as possible and not to have very cold surroundings as we can. The drivers' rest area, the China camp that we have here, and the entire grounds of Parliament have also been duly dealt with. Incidentally, the place is such that we are not cordoned off, and that's part of the issue regarding our advocating having our own kind of enclave that should be secure. So as much as possible, our experts will watch the situation and fumigate or do all that is needed so far as the public is concerned. Parliament does not really ever shut down. In fact, even Parliament on vacation is often recalled to deal with national emergencies. And if we are living in emergency time,
Speaker of Parliament Michael Quay speaking there. Our correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo has been bringing us the latest from today in Parliament, and no doubt there'll be more from him tomorrow. You're welcome back. Now, the CEO of Komfo Teaching Hospital, Dr. Oheneba Owusu-Danso, is worried over continued referral of suspected COVID-19 cases by peripheral facilities to Komfo Teaching Hospital. He revealed that most of the referrals do not follow approved protocols, risking the lives of the public. Speaking at a press conference organized by the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate, he revealed samples of 3 suspected cases have been sent to the lab awaiting results. He touched on how a Chinese who presented COVID-19 symptoms refused to go to hospital, and authorities were forced to involve RegSec. He later tested positive.
From where I'm coming from, I want to really repeat it for emphasis. It's to do with our referrals and the quarter of our referrals. From where I sit in Komfo, we are still seeing cases which are being referred to us as suspected cases. Respectfully, I want the media to assist us to implore on all hospitals in the region, private hospitals, what have you, where they suspect a particular case. They should not just put the patient in an ambulance and transfer the patient to Komfo. They should use the region's system that has been established to foremost alert the regional director and his team, and even Komfo Hospital, before such a patient is moved. But we say so because we have a protocol for transporting such patients, and we have a protocol for receiving such patients even in Komfo. So it's very important, whether you are a private hospital, you are a district hospital, or from wherever, it's important that you report. Now, the same thing that goes to even cases that are suspected from homes. I hope the last Friday when we met, we educated you on this, that as much as possible, where you suspect, that patient should immediately self-quarantine to inform the system so that we can trigger our protocols to get that patient educated, prepared, and transported if they need be. Because as you are aware, even the president communicated to us the last time he spoke on the Saturday, that some of the patients are already being managed in their homes, where you have a proper isolation. There could be a system to take care of you. Because I think the key thing is isolation. The key thing is isolation, just so that we do not encumber our hospitals and our system unnecessarily. But if even we have to, it must be properly done. Because the way the patient is managed from those homes or the hospitals or the centers, and even the mode of transportation is very, very key. Since all the staff are at risk and the public is also at risk, it's very, very important that we foremost report some of these cases, get the proper system triggered, and we handle such patients.
Let's learn a little bit more about this story from my colleague Ohiming Teria, who joins us on the phone now. Ohiming, this is quite a revelation. First, let's learn a bit more about this Chinese individual who had to be, checked by RegSec and eventually turned out to be positive. What else do we know? Ohiming, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Ohiming? It seems we've lost my colleague Ohiming Teria there. We will reconnect with him to get the rest of that story. Right, let's try now. Ohiming, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Ohiming? Hello, if you can hear me, Ohiming. No, it would appear we have some difficulty connecting with our colleague in Kumasi, but we will rectify that and bring you that conversation as soon as possible. In the meantime, border immigration officials are on high alert at the Ghana-Togo border. Now, they've accosted some travelers trying to use unauthorized routes into Togo. This comes as immigration officers begin strict monitoring at the country's borders following President Akufo-Addo's declaration over the weekend that all entry points will be shut down. Now, Fred Duho of our Joy Business Desk visited the borders this morning and reported that travelers from Cote d'Ivoire say they're not aware of the announcement of the border closure.
I'm currently standing at the border between Ghana and Togo. And as you can see behind me, these are travelers that are stranded at the Togo border. I understand they came this morning from Cote d'Ivoire, and that is their bus. That is the bus they came in with. And a number of them are trying to sneak into Togo and proceed to Nigeria. Speaking to me, a number of them indicated that they've not heard the news, and they are just worried what they are going to do. Togo, on the other side, has closed its border, and Ghana did so early this dawn. That is around 12 a.m. And I can report that most of them are trying to use the Okada riders to go through the unapproved or unauthorized routes and enter into Togo and proceed. But some of them have been accosted this morning, and they were brought to the main office here at the Togo-Aflao border, and they are just worried. Some told me they've been here for close to 2 days now, as when the Togo border was closed. And you can see right behind me, a number of them are just there. These buses all came from Cote d'Ivoire this morning, and some of them are just stranded at the Togo Ghana border.
I don't want to be important. That is not my priority now. It's not about being in the public. It's about my safety. I come all the way from a very far distance. I have relatives there. I'm from US, so I came to Nigeria. I also have my aunties over there with my brother. So we went to go and see my auntie before I go back to my destination. It's not, I don't have business, I don't do business. If you want to see the proof that I'm from there, I have the ID card with me.
So when did you come from US to Africa?
I came from US last month. So I stayed, I'm from Nigeria, my mom is from Benin Republic, and I have my aunties all in Ivory Coast. So I came last month, and I was there for a few weeks. Then last week I had my passport, you can check, with my brother. Then we went to see my auntie. I mean, I wouldn't have been aware and just risk our life. We can't do that.
But the situation was getting worse before you left the US.
Okay, this is it. From US, we were just, I mean, personally, I was aware of whatever it is, virus. But it wasn't like alarming situation. It was a situation that, I mean, the impression was it would be under curb. I mean, it will be under control. So I wasn't aware that it's going to be a worse situation. If I had been aware, I have my family there, I have my husband, I have my children. I wouldn't leave them and come to Nigeria or something.
So throughout your journey, were you checked in terms of temperature to see if you have?
Oh yes, of course they do that, but it wasn't like, it was just the beginning of the issue. Then the impression is everything will be under control. So it was just the beginning. It's not like something that is alarming like this.
So now that you've gotten the information that
you just want to be
Cote d'Ivoire has recorded some cases, Ghana has recorded 24, Togo recorded 16. You can see the issue is really escalating.
If the issue is escalating and the border is not closed, and they are taking temperature, they are doing everything, doesn't mean, I mean, it's different from when the border is closed. When the border is closed, now I know we can't go anywhere. But when the border is open, it means they are still taking precaution. People can still go and come. That's why we came in. I have my passport. My brother has his passport. So if we are aware that the situation is going to be like this, I personally and my brother, we are not going to jeopardize. This is jeopardizing life. Apart from getting to Nigeria, I still have to think how to get to my destination, which is US. So it's not about in Nigeria alone, but the thing is now, we are in the middle of the sea now. We can't go from, we can't go back. What do we do? So, I mean, it's not, I'm not trying to be rude or to be, it's just frustrating issue right now.
I can report again that when they came, or those who were accosted, when they came here, they were actually, their temperatures were checked to confirm or otherwise whether they have any sort of symptoms or conditions indicating or to raise any alarm of the sort. for them to be isolated or whatsoever. So I can say the port authorities here, the immigration and the port health authority, they are doing their best, utmost best, I must say. I was at the arrival hall and I realized that place was also closed, but there was this official post.
Indicated is an instruction from the President of the Republic of Ghana. So we are going by that directives. Yeah, so at this morning, exactly 12:00 hours, we close it. But as for the challenges, it's boiled down to logistics. Yes, as for the human resource, we have it. But the logistics to augment our activities is what is the challenge. But be as it may, we are doing the best that we can. What we do is that we are working closely with Port Health and then all the other border agencies, the customs. Yes. So what we do is that we have the main border, that is the approved, and then we have BIP9. The BIP9 is approved pedestrian crossing. So these two points, we have the Port Health, we have immigration, and we have customs, other border agencies. So what we do is...
So I can say without any iota of doubt that the port is closed and some travelers are stranded. So that is the situation currently here at the Togo border. I am Fred Duho reporting from Aflau for Joy News.
Right, we can go to Europe now, where Italy has become the epicenter of the coronavirus. Now, at the moment, more than 59,000 people have been infected and more than 5,470 people have died. Now, yesterday, German Chancellor Angela Merkel went into quarantine after her doctor, who recently met with her, tested positive for coronavirus. Let's go live now to Europe. Thomas Sparrow is the political correspondent with our partners DW. He joins me now from Germany, where parts of the country are in partial lockdown. Thomas, it's good to see you. Let's start with Angela Merkel. This is day 2 of her quarantine. What's the update on that?
So that's correct. Angela Merkel announced yesterday, after a very important press conference here in Berlin, after meeting some regional leaders, that she actually had to go into preventive quarantine at home because she had had contact a few days earlier with a doctor that had applied her a vaccination, and the doctor then tested positive himself for coronavirus. So Angela Merkel announced that she would have to go into preventive quarantine. She also said that she would have tests to see if she herself is positive. We're now awaiting the results of the first test, but she also stressed that she will continue carrying out her official duties from home. In other words, she's basically leading by example, telling Germans as well that if there is any way that they can stay home, that they should. That's the most important way of trying to reduce the impact of the coronavirus so far here in the country.
Now, the virus has ravaged some parts of Europe, particularly Italy. Give us an update on the progress there with their battle against the coronavirus.
Europe, as you know, has become the epicenter of the coronavirus. It's no longer in China, it's in Europe, and that, by the way, is something that has been said by the World Health Organization, and in particular, one of the countries that is mostly affected, probably the country that is mostly affected of all, has been Italy, with many thousands of infected people, in particular in the northern part of the country. That has been the most affected part of Italy, and many deaths as well. So Italy is certainly the most affected country in Europe, followed probably by Spain, although by now most European countries in one way or another have also have to deal with the coronavirus outbreak, and have also had political decisions to make when it comes to trying to reduce, as I say, the impact of the coronavirus. It differs in Europe between a full lockdown in some countries or other measures in other. In Germany, for example, politicians haven't used the word lockdown. Instead, they have put in place very big restrictions to public life, but they have so so far shied away from calling it an overall lockdown in this country, something that has happened in other parts of Europe, definitely.
So help us understand, in Italy, the mortality rate is something close to 10%, which is much higher than the global mortality rate of round about 4%. What do the experts say account for this?
There are different analyses there. Probably one of the elements that plays a leading role or a very important role when it comes to understanding why Italy has been particularly affected is certainly the fact that Italy has an aging population. And as you know, older people tend to be more affected by the coronavirus than younger people. And another element that has been discussed by experts is the fact that younger generations and older generations tend to have more contact in countries like Italy or in Spain than in somewhere like Germany or in some other European countries. And a third element that has been discussed is the fact that Italy probably reacted a bit too late, in particular when it comes to implementing some of those measures, and that's why one of the key lessons, if you will, but there are more, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second, is that once you put in place certain measures, you have to make sure they're implemented accordingly and very strictly as well.
Now, Thomas, how has this impacted the continent as a whole? I mean, you've described it as the new epicenter, but how has it affected daily lives and, of course, the administration of various governments across the continent?
It has obviously affected a lot. There's no doubt about that. Italy has been particularly affected by all this, not only on a public health level, but also on a political level and an economic level. Even more so, there's discussion obviously at a local level, but also at a European level as to what European countries should do to not only reduce the impact of the coronavirus when it comes to the health of citizens, but also to the economy, and that's a particular concern for European countries. In Germany, for example, there have been plenty of measures also put in place and discussed to try and make sure that the companies that are most affected by the coronavirus can receive some sort of help so they don't get that, they're not as badly affected as people might think they can. When you look at what lessons can actually be learned from all this, you can clearly say that measures have to be taken very early. You can't wait until you have many hundreds or thousands of cases before actually taking all these measures into consideration and actually putting them into practice. And the second element is that they have to be put into practice very strictly. You have to make sure that those measures that are put in place are actually implemented and that people in the respective countries actually make also their part, participate and understand that this is not only for politicians to resolve, it is also about people being conscious of what is at stake, of what risks are at stake and what role they can play also in trying to minimize the impact.
Right, I'm going to thank you, Thomas. That was very, very helpful, as always, a revelation. And that's our partner from DW, Thomas Sparrow. Right, now there is some good news from China, as for 2 days running, the country has recorded no new cases.
现在特别的激动，感觉终于回家了。我们是刚刚总院的，这是一生难忘的事儿。我们回家了，为爱前行，祝各位队员一路平安。向您致敬，感谢贵州，向您致敬。
Wuhan provides hope for the rest of the world that even the most severe situation can be turned around.
Right, let's keep it international. Let's get an update from U.S. Governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo, who's been giving an update on the coronavirus battle in his state.
China, this is not South Korea, on the theory that, well, I'm an American youth and therefore I have a superior immune system than China or South Korea. No, that theory is not correct. In New York, 53% of the cases, 18 to 49 years old. Second fact, older people and those with compromised immune system, underlying illnesses, can die from the coronavirus. You're right, the 18 to 49-year-old is probably not lethal, but you can get it and you can get sick. And it's a nasty illness, and then you can transfer to someone else. That's the case for young people. Older people, obviously, if you're a vulnerable person, it can be lethal. Both facts are true, and both facts have to be understood. Young people can get it, you will get sick, you probably won't die, but you can transfer it to someone who may very well die. And you can transfer it even inadvertently without knowing you're doing it. You can touch a surface, walk away. A day later, someone can sit at this table and put their hand in the same place and contract the virus. I was in New York City yesterday. It was a pretty day. There is a density level in New York City that is wholly inappropriate. You would think there was nothing going on in parts of New York City. You would think it was just a bright, sunny Saturday. I don't know what I'm saying that people don't get. I'm normally accused of being overly blunt and direct. And I take that. It's true. I don't know what they're not understanding. This is not life as usual. None of this is life as usual. And this kind of density, we talk about social distancing. I was in these parks. You would not know that anything was going on. This is just a mistake. It's a mistake. It's insensitive. It's arrogant. It's self-destructive. It's disrespectful to other people. And it has to stop, and it has to stop now. This is not a joke, and I am not kidding. We spoke with the mayor of the city of New York.
Right. Next, we're going to Nigeria, where Kyla Megwa, presenter, producer, reporter, and State House correspondent for Channels Television, joins us via Skype. So, hi, tell us, what are the latest figures from your country?
Thank you so much for tuning in, for speaking with us this afternoon. It's a very interesting day. Just this morning, we got 6 more confirmed cases. So let me just give you a breakdown as to how many cases we have in the country at the moment. So we have 36 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. 33 are active, 2 have been discharged, and we recorded the first death today. So that has been something that's caused a bit of worry around the country, especially since that death occurred right here in the nation's capital, right here in Abuja. So let me give you a spread as to how the infections have been going on. In Abuja, we have 6. In Edo State, we have 1 person with COVID-19. Ekiti State has 1. We have 2 in Ogun State, 1 in Oyo, and then the largest number, 25 in Lagos State. So that's something that's making the entire country worry about it. So that's the update. 36 cases confirmed. 26 of those cases have travel history with countries with high burden case of the virus. All right, and then we have 6 of those cases are from those travel cases, and then 4 from unconfirmed sources, which is a cause of worry. because we cannot tell where they got those ones from. Meanwhile, 32 patients are clinically stable. One person is dependent on oxygen. And of course, like I told you earlier, we had one person die this one, and the person who died was actually a public official, so it's someone who's really well known. His family put out a statement. Now, the Ministry of Health has just finished the press briefing to update on all the situations of COVID-19 that we have across the country. And then, of course, the Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, is saying that one of the problems is people are not self-isolating, and that is a big problem, very big issue. So they're saying that they're going to probably have to use the military to ensure compliance in that particular matter, because it's imperative that everything is done to, stop this spread as much as possible. There's a lot of social distancing going on in the country. So many rules are put in place. Schools have been closed down. Some universities have moved their studies online, which is also a very good thing since, there's social distancing now. It's important that education continues. So many schools have gone online, but schools have been shut down in the country. And then, of course, there's the fact that, everyone is trying to comply with the rules and regulations for the times that we're in.
Kayla, what can you tell us about the one case that ended in death? The public official who passed away. Did he have any pre-existing conditions? What do we know?
Well, according to the Ministry of Health, they say he did. They say he had pre-existing health conditions, and that was the reason why when he caught the disease, he wasn't able to fight it off as many people with strong immune systems would have been able to. Remember that Nigeria has recorded 2 people who have been discharged. So there were people who had the disease. The index case, that's the Italian, and then we had another case not too long ago. So those 2 people have been discharged. So it is possible to beat this disease if your immune system is strong enough. But yes, like I said earlier, this one death that has been recorded is someone who they said had pre-existing conditions, and that's the reason why he wasn't able to beat it.
Now, you mentioned a number of directives that are being violated by members of the public, and there is a discussion now about possibly bringing in the military to enforce these directives. Talk us through the directives. What have the people of Nigeria been told to do and not to do?
All right, well, there's so many, actually, starting from yesterday. Many arrests were made yesterday because the rule was that there wasn't supposed to be any gathering of people above 50, at least any church gathering or any gathering at all of people above 50, 50 being the number of people that should be in a particular place. Now, that rule was flouted, I do have to say, by many congregations yesterday, and of course, the law enforcement agents were going around to ensure that that was stopped. At the time when church services were on. But I do have to say many churches did comply, but for the ones who didn't comply, that also had to be looked at very sternly by the security agencies. And then, of course, there's the fact that for buses, for instance, there's a sitting arrangement for a lot of these public transportation. So one person is supposed to sit in front, 3 at the back, and 3 at the other. And we saw today even in the nation's capital, we were able to see some people flouting those rules, but we're seeing law enforcement doing what they can to stop people from breaking those particular rules. Now, the major one that the Minister of Information and Culture is most worried about is the fact that many people who come into the country did not self-isolate. Many people are not self-isolated, and in fact, there are about 1,300, he said? Yes, about 1,300 people who are connected to some of the cases that we have, who they're still trying to get them to come in and report themselves, to say this is who I've been in contact with. These are contacts that they got from people who are already dealing with the disease right now. And many of those contacts are not making themselves available to be either quarantined or tested or self-isolate themselves. Those are some of the issues that we're having to deal with. And the Minister of Information was very stern about that today, saying that they're going to ensure enforcement, because this is something that we have to be together as a country.
Kayla, is Nigeria doing mass testing, or are you still testing those that only meet the case definition?
So there are calls for mass testing, but that hasn't started yet. That has not been done. There is no mass testing going on. They're doing the testing based on the information that they get from the cases that they're handling. So that's where we are right now, but no mass testing whatsoever is going on yet.
Okay. Are there concerns about supplies, medical supplies? Does Nigeria have enough of the test kits, of PPE for frontline health workers, of respirators, and all the things that some countries are very concerned that they are going to face shortages of?
Yeah, that is a concern around the world. Nigeria is just one of the countries around the world who are facing that particular concern. We have 5 testing centers across the country, but of course, the majority of Nigerians are asking for more. The National Assembly said they wanted testing kits at the National Assembly so that when you're coming into the National Assembly, you get tested. You know, there are calls for more. More needs to be done. There are many quarantine centers. Remember, this is not the first time we're handling something like that. We were able to handle the Ebola situation perfectly. But this is a little different. The anatomy of this particular disease is a little different. So it's something that we're learning as it evolves. Remember, the biggest problem with COVID-19 is the fact that for the first few days of infection, you may not show any symptoms whatsoever. And as long as you're not showing any symptoms, you are contagious. So contagious and not showing symptoms. And that is how it's been happening. It's not just in Nigeria, it's around the world. This is how people have been infecting. This is how they've been entering into countries. You may not even know that you have the disease because you're not showing any symptoms. And the machines at the airports and at the entry points of Nigeria look for the symptoms of the disease, which is what the Minister of Health has been speaking on, the fact that, look, we have to be very careful. So we're basically depending on people to do the right thing. If you came in from outside of the country, you should self-isolate. The daughter of the president is in self-isolation right now. The governor of Bauchi State was in contact with someone who has tested positive to the disease, and he's in self-isolation right now as well. One of the cases that really shocked the nation was when the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, actually sent out a tweet saying that his son has been infected and has been taken away by the NCDC, for them to do, for him to be quarantined because he has tested positive to the disease. So this is something that we hope that everyone does the right thing. And remember, this is a disease that we're still trying to understand. So it's a very hard time, but if everyone is doing the right thing, then probably we will see an end to this pretty soon.
A lot of the violations that you described earlier are caused by economic factors. People just don't want to lose money, and so they end up doing the wrong thing, like overloading vehicles and still organizing events that have more than 50 people attending. How is the government intending to address this? Around the world, governments are creating incentive and booster packages to help businesses that are affected by the social distancing that is inevitable. How is Nigeria gearing up to do this?
Well, the country is doing what it can, considering the circumstances. Remember, this is something that has exploded so all of a sudden, sort of in our faces, despite all the controls that have been put in place. So the basic thing that is being done is to ensure that people do what is right, put social distancing rules out there so people know not to be in places that are overcrowded, know to sanitize yourself, know to keep yourself clean, know to make sure that children are doing the right thing. That is the education bit of it, I think, that the Nigerian government is more interested in at this particular point in time. There will be, like the Minister of Information was saying, if the compliance level is too low, then we might have to take other measures to ensure that people do the right thing. But as it is right now, it's the education bit of it that the Nigerian government is more interested in. And many Nigerians are on board with this. Just a few rogue elements who are breaking and flouting these rules. But, we are hopeful that things will be done properly and we'll see our country get back to where we want it to be. So that's the situation here.
We share that hope with you, Kayla. Kayla Megwa, thank you very much for your time with us. Now, Kayla, of course, is a journalist in Nigeria, giving us an update on how they are faring in the battle against the novel coronavirus. Right then, so let's very quickly have a look at what's happening around the world in terms of the coronavirus cases. We have 358,803 recorded cases as we speak. We're looking at about 15,433 of them have resulted in death. 100,645 have recovered. That number crossed the 100,000 mark today, which is great news. At least a third, a bit less than a third of those who have been affected have recovered already. There are 242,725 active cases. Now, here's how the active cases are broken down. Majority of them, 95% of the active cases, have very mild symptoms. They're in mild condition, about 231,512 out of the 242,000 total. Now, that means about 5% of them, 11,213, have serious or critical symptoms. And this has been the case. This statistic has held steady almost throughout the entirety of the life of this virus. So about 5% of those who get it suffer serious or critical symptoms. And of course, a smaller percent of those end up dying. All right, now let's have a look at some of the countries, and they are in sort of descending order of numbers. China still at the top, 81,093. But look at Italy, 59,138 cases recorded so far. They are closing in on China in a horrendous way. They've certainly recorded more deaths than China. 5,476 Italians have died as a result of the COVID-19 spread. Well, they're probably not all Italians, but residents of Italy. This is certainly a worrying number. The USA is very close behind, 39,371. Their epicenter is New York, unfortunately, New York City, where they are feeling the worst of it. It makes sense. They are the most populous state in America. So one of the most populous, states in America. Spain follows in fourth place with 33,000. Germany with 27,000. That's where Angela Merkel, their premier, is currently in quarantine. Iran has had a tough time of it. They are in sixth position in terms of number of cases with 23,049. But they've had far more deaths in Iran and Spain than in Germany, where they've had a surprisingly low number of deaths, 115 so far. France is not doing great, 16,689, worse than South Korea, which, as you recall, was one of the first countries to record large numbers, but they are now hovering around about 8,961 with only 64 new cases, 111 deaths only. So they seem to be holding fast and seeking to stem the tide and perhaps turn back the trend. The United Kingdom is right there with 5,837 cases, 289 of them resulting in death. They've had quite a surge with new cases, 154 new cases over the past 24 hours. The Netherlands is struggling too, and their healthcare system seems to be feeling the brunt of the new cases. They are also facing some shortages of things like respirators, which they never had many of to begin with. They never needed that many, but right now, certainly, with 213 deaths already, they are certainly in need of the best health care they can give to their people. The case count stands at 24. One person has died. Let's connect live with Ohiming Teria in Kumasi, where some of the cases came from. Ohiming, I hope you can hear me. Authorities at Komfo Teaching Hospital are worried about the poor handling of cases by some facilities. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, Kojo, that concern came from the Chief Executive Officer of Komfo Teaching Hospital, Dr. Ohineba Owusi Danso, who says he's not comfortable as far as referral of cases to the Komfo Teaching Hospital are concerned. For instance, he says suspected COVID-19 cases are being referred to Komfo Teaching Hospital, putting the life of nurses and the general public in danger. Instead of these facilities going by what he described as approved protocols, they have ignored all those protocols, but instead referring the cases to Komfo, which he says endanger the lives of patients and the general public, especially nurses and doctors working at Komfo Teaching Hospital. Kojo.
Tell us, what is the proper protocol that the people of the Ashanti region are supposed to follow if they suspect that they have symptoms of coronavirus?
Kojo, the protocols are not different. What we have in Ashanti region is not different from what is being practiced elsewhere, say in Greater Accra region or any other region in Ghana. According to the Regional Health Director, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrine, once a patient is identified, then the health facility must alert a task force, a team put together by the Regional Health Directorate, and then the team will liaise with the health facility, get samples tested at KCCR, and not that the patient will be referred to another facility apart from what has been laid down by health officials. So that has been the protocol, and he says it's a protocol approved by Ghana Health Service as far as the treatment and management of COVID-19 cases are concerned.
All right, now tell us about that curious case of a Chinese patient who was not being very cooperative, and RegSec had to be brought in.
Yes, according to Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrine, the issue of the Chinese, the health authorities had to involve RegSec, called in for the assistance of RegSec, who also assisted with security operatives before this Chinese national would allow himself to be tested first, to be sent to the hospital, and then get tested for COVID-19, of which he later tested positive for the virus. Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrine says the Chinese man was identified as having presented with symptoms of COVID-19, and following his travel history, it was obvious that this particular gentleman might be a COVID-19 patient. But when authorities asked him to follow up, for instance, to follow them to the hospital and get tested, he ignored all these signs. All these warnings were ignored at the point that he was being recalcitrant, and they had to involve the Regional Security Council, who called in police, and then I'm told some military officers were also involved before he was sent to the hospital and got tested positive for COVID-19, Kojo. And
right.
According to health authorities, this whole issue brought about scare. The residents of Chirapatre, Fabi, and its environs were scared that this is a man that we know owns a local production factory here in Kumasi and has been actively engaged in production. So the suspicion was that some residents, as well as some staff members of his company, may test positive. And according to Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrine, efforts have been made, and all those that the gentleman came into contact with have been traced, and they are helping health authorities to get to the bottom of the matter.
Now, speaking of health authorities, Ohiming, there is a need to provide the necessary protection and incentive for those on the front line of this battle. So what's the update on insurance cover for health workers over there?
Today, at today's briefing, the Chief Executive Officer, Komfanoche Teaching Hospital, Dr. Ohineba Owusu-Danso, briefed journalists that about 400 frontline active service providers at Komfanoche, including doctors and nurses and other health care providers, have been enrolled onto an insurance package. This is a comprehensive insurance package, though the details will not be discussed. He says, yes, the insurance package is in, and those at Komfanoche Teaching Hospital, the same as other health facilities in Ghana, who probably may be busy managing COVID-19 cases. These are to support the frontline workers for their contribution and for their sacrifice as far as management of COVID-19 cases are concerned. And he revealed that the doctors and nurses will be working more than 12 hours a day. 12 hours a day, something that he thinks that would definitely drain them. And so he talked about the fact that they were making arrangements so that these health workers, nurses, doctors, and other staff members will also be able to take some reprieve, some relief as far as when they start managing COVID-19 cases at the facility. And he mentioned that there are 3 suspected cases that are currently at the laboratory awaiting a response from the laboratory. So these 3 suspected cases are suspected COVID-19 cases, and the samples have been taken to the laboratory for laboratory tests to be conducted on those samples, but the results have not been made public yet.
Right.
Because they are not ready.
Right. Oh, I mean, let's talk about something else before you leave. The Asokwa District Court granted bail today to 8 pastors and church elders who held church service in defiance of the presidential ban on public gathering. Tell me about what happened in court with this case.
Sure, Kojo. Among the 8 accused persons who appeared before the Asokwa District Court is Apostle Kofi Nkansa Sarkodie, also known as Saint Sack, and administrator of his church, Open Arms Ministry at Kumasi North Centreso. This gentleman has been identified as Kofi Nkansa Sarkodie Sr., 29 years. They appeared before the Asokwa District Court on charges of unlawful assembly, contrary to Section 202 of the Criminal Offences Act of 1960, and then offensive conduct to breach of the peace, contrary to Section 207, subsection 1 of the Criminal Offences Act of 1960. But the 2 gentlemen pleaded not guilty to all these 2 counts as read by court officials. So the court granted the 2 officials, two ministers, the court granted them bail with 10,000 Ghana cedis each with 2 sureties. So as we speak, the last time I checked from the court, the 2 gentlemen have not been able to meet the bail condition, and they were still in police custody. Apart from these 2 gentlemen, there were other 8 people who also appeared before the Asokwa District Court. They are Apostle Moses Degenu Ametepe, Pastor Eric Anim Echampong, Pastor Johnson Kwame Ade, Pastor Richard Dunfe Mensah, and then Pastor Richard Entry, and then Elder Resford Ejay. All these 6 accused persons are from a church at Kumasi Aprabo. And according to court documents as presented by prosecution, on 22nd of March 2020, they were arrested disobeying the presidential ban on social gathering. And that is how come they were brought to the court today. They were also granted bail in the sum of 10,000 Ghana cedis with 2 sureties, Kojo.
Okay, so at this point, do we know when this case will be called again?
Kojo, we do know that the case will be called again on March 26, 2020. And according to her worship, Rosemary Afia Asante, she actually raised concerns about the charges being leveled against the 6 other people, Apostle Degenu and then his church members, and he called on the prosecution to amend those charge sheets. So yes, on 26th of this month, the accused persons will reappear before the court.
Ohiming, I want to thank you so much for that rather comprehensive update on what's happening in Kumasi regarding COVID-19 and related stories. There's more to come on The Pulse. You better not go anywhere. We're back after these. Welcome back. This is The Pulse. Now, it's been a day of massive disinfection exercises in markets in the Greater Accra region. All markets in the region were shut down to allow an exercise authorized by the local government ministry to take place. Personnel from various assemblies, the National Disaster Management Organization, Zoom Lion, and the military were deployed this morning to ensure compliance. Now, we're going to be touching base with all correspondents who have been assessing the situation in various markets. But let's begin with the Accra Mayor, Mohammed Ajay-Soa, who was debunking claims that the exercise is to kill rodents in Accra's markets instead of coronavirus, which has plagued the world. Now, Joy News' Maxwell Agbagba has more on that from his checks at the Central Business District, Kantamanto, and the Tuesday Market.
President Akufo-Addo said we are not in ordinary times. Indeed, if we were in ordinary times, you wouldn't see young men on a weekday like this playing football at this busy part of the Kantamanto market. What you would have seen possibly would be young men holding jeans, holding shoes, holding different kinds of items, selling them and trying to get the attention of potential buyers. In compliance with the directive issued by the Ministries of Local Government and Rural Development, all the traders have stayed home to allow for this disinfection exercise to take place here at the once busy Kantamanto market. With us here, the mayor of Accra himself is here with us.
As a practice, if a trader is closing for the day, is supposed to cover the words, especially food items. But we re-echoed it simply because we are doing disinfection and we are using chlorine. As much as we've been told that it's not toxic, but we think that safety measures have to be adhered to. In the event that we find anywhere open and it's not covered, that will be taken away and it will be seized. So that also must be explained to people for them to understand.
I'm sure over the weekend you saw some information that was going viral on social media that we're talking about a virus, but we're doing a disinfection that people think that would only kill rodents, and rats. Many were those who do not know that this can also kill virus. Maybe you'd want to correct that impression that is out there.
Well, the chlorine is killing bacteria and viruses and not rodents and cockroaches. So we will not end up in the day with a lot of rats being killed. The focus in the chemical composition has got its target, is to kill bacteria and then rodents, and that's bacteria and viruses, and that's the focus of this exercise strictly. We should know that this is not a normal fumigation that we do within the market every quarter to make sure that we fumigate the market. This is to kill a virus which is spreading on the surfaces of our body and any other item. So I think that the people of this country and then that of the city dwellers should be assured that we are doing the right thing. And this is a WHO standard protocol that we've been adhered to.
I want to find out from you, social distancing in our markets, it looks like a big problem. If it becomes, necessary for us to enforce that in the market, what is the AMA going to do?
Well, on Friday, the Minister for Local Government met the leadership of the markets, and we even observed the social distancing. We made sure that a group of not more than 20 was met at different locations in the whole of Greater Accra, and this matter was discussed. So we sought the consent and advice also and the counsel of the leadership of the various markets, and they are very mindful of some of these things. But we know very well that the market is also very congested, and that's why the disinfection has started. So it's a process that we are continuing with that one. The situation is being reviewed by the highest authority every now and then, and a directive will be given as to what exactly it's supposed to do at any point in time.
We just heard from the mayor of Accra, Mohammed Ajay-Soa, speaking to us, giving us comprehensive updates on what they're doing in the process and the stage that we've got into now with this disinfection exercise. Now, we have the man who is in charge of the military, the section of the military, ensuring that people comply with this directive here with us.
Actually, looking at the wide nature and then the spread of the disinfectant, I think we had over 300 soldiers so far, but grouped into smaller numbers, supporting each of the various groups of those doing the spraying. and also covering the various markets in the whole Greater Accra. Yes, so we have over 300 soldiers and officers. Yeah.
What really is the role of the military in all of this? Are they also taking part in the disinfection exercise, or they are just making sure that people comply with the directive to stay off the market?
Yes, I think for us there are 3 areas we are covering. First of all, protection to those who are doing the spraying. And then secondly, we are also ensuring that we conduct patrol to ward off intruders. Now, people have abandoned their shops, and it's not all the shops or the markets that have gates. So we make sure we have patrols to make sure people don't go in behind to break people's shop. So a kind of security for the various markets. And the third aspect is also we have markets with gates, and we make sure that the gates are secure. Nobody breach into those things. So we have static guard duties. That will be here till maybe tomorrow morning.
Are you impressed with so far how the traders are complying with the directive?
Yes, it's very impressive because so far you've not received any resistance from anybody, which is good.
The disinfection exercise is also taking place here at the Kaneshi market. A lot of the shops we've seen here, all the shops we've seen here, in fact, have been closed. We find some of the sellers standing on this overhead bridge, just monitoring the disinfection exercise that is going on. But from here, you can see gallons of blue gallons of the disinfectant, in that vehicle parked over there. Some members of the disinfection team also standing closely, going inside there and disinfecting the whole place. Another thing we've also seen that comes with this exercise is how they are also clearing the waste materials here, just some meters away from this lorry terminal has also been cleared by an earth-moving machine. Although it may not necessarily form part of the disinfection exercise, it forms part of the objectives of enhancing the hygiene of the Kaneshi markets and many other markets across the country. Let's get closer and speak to a member of the Accra Sub-Metro. He's the director of the Accra Sub-Metro. Let's speak to him and find out from him what level we are right now. Chief, you're welcome to JoyNews.
Well, we are looking at the surroundings. We're also looking at the first floor. We can't do the ground floor because there are foodstuffs there. Okay. And so what it means is that we would have to find another day to come and do the ground floor. Because we can't fumigate whilst we have foodstuffs. The chemicals is not good for consumption.
Okay. But I'm sure the market women were informed, so what really happened?
Yes, it's a bit technical because when they move their foodstuff, where do they take them? That's the challenge. So after we finish the first floor, with approval from the mayor and then EPA, then they will okay the second phase of the exercise where would move the foodstuffs or cover them. And when you cover them, you must also discard the cover after the fumigation is completed.
We want to understand, MTTD, what role are you playing in all of this? Ask you have been on the streets, on normal days you're on the streets, making sure that there's no traffic. What have you observed today? There are some people who have said that it looks like today is a holiday for all MTTD officers.
No, MTTD officers are working. The reason you are seeing it that way is because the traffic situation itself has come down.
Exactly, that's what you're saying is a holiday.
Yes, and the reason the traffic situation is down is because Kaneshi is a very huge market. The whole of Kaneshi is a market. And so if the market is not working, then of course most people running transport will have no business coming in here because they will have nothing to do. They can't ferry passengers, they can't bring in goods and services, etc.
And that's how it went down in Kaneshi. So where should we go next? Malam Market, how about that? Nancy Emefa Dradosi was there. Here's her update.
The Malam Market, and we've moved from Agbogboloshi to the Malam Market. You know, that's one of Accra's biggest markets for those that live at Dansuman, Dakuman. This is where they do their shopping. And today we know that there's supposed to be a closure of the market to see to the disinfection of the entire place. We got here some few minutes ago, and I find that there's an official here from the local government.
North Municipal Assembly.
Oh, the MCA herself.
I'm the Municipal Environmental Health Officer.
Okay, you're the Environmental Health Officer. Thank you very much. What's your name, please?
My name is Harriet Kreku.
Okay. Why are we here this morning?
Yes, we are here to disinfect the market. We are doing this disinfestation with chlorine. That's about 6.5 pH value. So the Zoom Lion is here to help us do the disinfection. We started around 6 a.m. and they are still on it. Yes.
Wow. All right. So basically, I have not been to the market, but have traders come around?
No.
Okay.
No, today no trading here.
Okay.
We came as early as 5:30 and there was nobody. The market women have covered all their wares nicely. They have, I honestly managed to stay away from the market today. Okay. So the police is also here to protect us so that the spraying goes on. We have the market, one of the market kings around to also help us.
Is he around here?
Yes, he's here.
Okay. I'll speak to him briefly, but I'm just from the Agbogboshi market and I spoke to some of the traders and their concern was whether or not truly you'd be able to finish this exercise today.
Yes, we will be able to finish it today. And so tomorrow, hopefully, they can come and sell their wares. Okay. So tomorrow, the market will be opened for the public to do their shopping.
You talk about the use of chlorine, and this chlorine is supposed to fight bacteria or virus. What exactly does it do?
It fights both bacteria and virus on the surfaces. So the spraying is going on all the tables that they use in the market, in and around the market. We're spraying all to make sure the virus and the bacteria here are really attacked.
Okay. You're Madam Harriet, right?
Harriet.
Okay, so Madam Harriet is the environmental officer for this particular area, Municipal Environmental Health. Okay, thank you very much. I would want to cross over. You remember that when we were at the Agbogboshi market, where I actually spoke to the team that was wearing the same dress were from the National Anti-Malaria Control Program. But I understand the team here is from Zoom Lion. That is what I get from Madam Harriet. But I see that the king of the market, the market king, I guess. Yeah. What's your name, please?
Nat Western Beaumont.
Great. I see that. I understand. I haven't been to the market. I would want to work with you through it, but I am told that your people complied with the directive.
Yes, as for Mala Market, I'm so boastful of my traders here because we do comply with whatever order the president or the local authorities has given to us here. So we do comply.
Okay. So you're giving them assurances that today is going to be the day and they can resume tomorrow?
Yes, we are aware. We know that they are going to complete everything tomorrow, and tomorrow market begins tomorrow.
But as a market king, how are you and your members ensuring that the coronavirus that we're all talking about, they are listening to it and are taking the necessary precautions? What have you put in place?
Yeah, the assembly has organized a workshop and they have sensitized all the traders here, and we ourselves too, and other NGOs and other stakeholders have been here. They have also sensitized all the traders about this coronavirus. That is a killer disease. So we ourselves, we are also doing our best to ensure that none of our traders here will contact or contract that virus.
Okay. Where's your gloves? You're holding them, but you're not wearing them yet. So please also realize that mine has also been placed at the top of my head. Yeah, please do yours as soon as possible because I mean that's the surest way for all of us to get safe. But I'm crossing over because I just heard that the team had started the machine. And so let me just try and cross the road briefly and get to speak to the head of this particular team. Good morning. Please, who is the head of the team? Who can I speak to from the Zoom line? Who amongst you can speak to me? Okay, who? You? Who's there? Okay, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, all right. So you are from Zoom Lion.
Yes, I am.
Are you about to start or you've started already?
Oh,
okay. Who now your boss or team name?
I'm for sure boss or by me the boss nature.
No, the boss nature. Now more start and suffering and more shares here.
Oh, yeah, shares such a good idea, man.
Okay. It's more dream fancy here.
Sisiani, I have been talking about she for bears I feel count.
Okay. I'm going to some more do I say.
I in a group. This is a group 2 near here. Group one group be a 10. To maybe 15 near her.
Oh, okay.
Because I had markets no social baby I owe you in the Achiemu. Don't mind about train peoples. na actually ma bia baby all ye adwuma.
Okay. Many obikasa and many an anti-malaria control program. Also, watch water in be. Now, free other regions nearby. Zoom line some Accra and Kitty and I say other regions to come home.
Other regions come. Me dem Frankenstein. Obisi with Cape. Obisi sauce pond. Won be about. About show home. I started generation on money. Then no. Cause I knew when I had it. Nti we be a yaba kakra wo hu na wontumi ye. Nti na wo mpem from a pick na sa na wo akan ya bomba ko. Nti no a about 3 o'clock na yaba Pentecost West House one. Yes, I say, yes, we are more, and I shall.
Okay. All right. So let me just translate briefly. He's from Zoom Lion. He says that there are also teams from other regions who are gathered here and not necessarily Accra. So he tells me that he's from Mankesima. I heard somebody saying he's from Ahafo. He says also Oda. So basically, it's people from all walks of life. I mean, from other regions. But they tell me that they've started this spraying exercise already, and they're just waiting for a few other machines to join them. And indeed, I've seen that somebody standing. I've seen somebody standing there with the spray. Is it what's the name?
Machine, motor, solar machine.
Spraying machine, yes, great. So the person was standing there with the spraying machine, and so these huge ones would be taken to the market. It's mobile spray surfaces. Now, I say former, and I say.
Yes, baby, doing the autumn, baby, I will be a for new, but on call risk is now doing bono. And to spray down on the space, no. It's no thing who are doing bokuno. Now they know who's doing but to make no. But Niano, Yamina, what in necessary, emblem might be by a fine.
But maybe an idea.
And they will win now.
Okay, all right. All right, so these are men that are putting themselves on the front line and making sure that they are going to be able to control. But let me walk with the market king. Let him take me round the Malam market. I have never been to this market before, but I see that those ahead of us have started spraying. So let me just put on my mask. Let's all wear our mask, and then you can get to work. Good. So we are all set because you would not want to inhale all the chemicals that will be going into your nostrils. So there you'd see that the team is ready. They are just ready to spray. And all the market traders, as said by the market king, have covered their wares with some rubber bags. And so there, the spraying has begun. We'll try as much as possible to stay away from the chemical directly, and so that we'll be able to have a better appreciation of what exactly is happening. But basically what you see there is the training exercise currently ongoing here at the Malamata market here in Accra. So we just witnessed the disinfection of the Malam market, not Malata market. And I've been joined by the environmental officer who's in charge of this particular place. It was very important for us to undertake this exercise, don't you think so?
Sure, very much important. At least we are done. We made sure every place, every corner, beneath the tables, on the tables, and even the handles of whatever, we make sure they are being disinfected so that people that come to hold, people that pass, we don't have any virus around.
For those who do not understand the meaning of disinfection, can you please explain? Because when I was coming, I got a lot of people asking me what exactly the purpose of this is, whether or not we're trying to kill the rodents and the pests around, or we are trying to target the bacteria and the viruses.
Okay, this is mainly to target the virus.
Okay.
Virus, not rodents, no reptiles, nothing. We are just on the virus that we are now battling on. As we all know, COVID-19. So nothing else, not looking at reptiles, not looking at cockroaches, not looking at, we are just on the COVID-19. As we all know, is a virus.
From your point of view as environmental officer, the Malam market, how would you assess it in terms of the public health education?
For now, it's quite better, but we are still to look at the decongestion. We see that somehow it's crowded. We'll see to it that some people that come to sit on the ground, we make sure they leave. And then we see to the decongestion. Some people come to buy, they stand just close to the food, and they talk, and we know all this is droplets. Sometimes some people come and even see to touching and all that. So we want to make measures to see that all those things are put in.
How would we do it? Because it's like a normal setting in our market.
Yes, it's a national thing that we are battling. So we are taking measures. Education will go. We'll have officers at various points, to be looking at those things. Now, as you can see, we have even soldier men soldiers around who also help us in all those things. But the main thing will be education, which will go around to educate people. We have vans with the PA system that's going around doing education, and then we are still on.
Your name is?
Daniel Akansa.
Daniel, then maybe you have to consider joining the Joy Clean Ghana campaign.
Sure, I will.
Thank you very much. The market king is still standing with me. Where exactly are we standing? What is this? What is happening here?
Yes, it's a project that is ongoing on in Mala Market here. It's a shed that is under construction for the traders that will be doing their business, their daily business on it.
Okay. So this is like one of the measures to ensure that we don't have the congestion in the market?
Yes. It's something we are doing very urgently so that all those tables you are seeing and those containers and everything, I think on this thing that we are standing on, yes, it's a local government project that they are doing. They are constructing almost about 40 of this so that all the traders in the Mala market can get a place. They are going to do the pavement here all and bring electricity or other social amenities here. That will help the traders to do their business.
Hannah Odame has also been assessing the fumigation exercise around the Tiptoe Lane here at Circle and the Malam Ata market.
The team visited 4 markets in the Ayawaso Central constituency: Malamata, Ayikidi, Alajo, and Tiptoe Lane. Traders had complied with a directive to close their shops. Some, however, gathered in groups to witness the exercise. At the Nima market, a mosque used its megaphone to urge people to stay indoors. A personnel from the ambulance service was seen randomly checking temperature of those who had gathered at the Malamata market. This market leader tells me she's been selling here since 1972 and has never seen such an exercise.
Maton idea wa ha fiti 1972 and I'm market here. Ti anopa me ti say omo ye na say me baby na me di mani be hwe na me so me beboa wom.
I have been selling in this market since 1972 and I have never seen such an exercise here before. So I am very happy. That's why I decided to even come over to see how it is done.
Yare na aba no coronavirus na aba no eno nti na yesure nti ese yeso ye mayen ho kwan ni yesure mayen.
Even if we are told to stay home for 1 week to enable such an exercise to go on in this market, we will all agree. We are so very happy.
Ni yesure mayen. Ebi say yare no enimu akwala na enimu pani. Nkanka ne yen ya yenya 60 ikono. Yesi yen kra na eku yen mo. Nti say wan maya anye na say also beba bebie na yare ne chiwa. The
exercise was also conducted at the Nima and Mamumbi markets, all in the Ayawaso East constituency. For JoyNews, my name is Hannah Odame.
As the fight to halt the spread of the coronavirus in Ghana takes a new turn this week, we put the spotlight on corporate organizations helping Ghanaians to comply with the preventive measures announced by health professionals. Head of our health desk, Fred Smith, visited the Legon Mall here in Accra, where companies operating from this mall have joined forces to set up a hand-washing bay. And guess what? For the entire community to help halt the spread of the deadly virus.
The hand-washing bay, there are already people who are washing their hands here before they enter the shops around. I'll go there and have my hands washed and interact with some of them. So I turn on the tap, wet my hands a bit, and then get the soap. Okay, so there's enough soap for me and anyone else who come here. This bay has about 10 sinks that people can wash their hands at a time, so 5 on each row. They also have a bin where you dispose of any tissue that you use. So when I'm done, I'm going to wipe off the water. Okay, a little rinsing. Okay, and then I can dispose of in the bin. I find some people already washing their hands there.
I came to Textbook shop and I found this here, and which is really attractive and very good. And I think I would recommend to any mall, market, and even the government to try and do some of this thing at various places so that it will be very convenient for people to try and wash their hands and be protected.
How worried have you been about the spread of the coronavirus?
Very, very worried. Very, very worried because we never expected it here until we started having some 2 cases. That was last week. We have to do this thing more in the country or in the city so that people can be washing their hands very well.
There's another lady here who's washing her hands busily.
I came to the EPP book to purchase some books for my company.
Okay.
So when I came and then I realized there was something wonderful going on here. So they ushered me to wash my hands here before I entered the bookshop. So here I am.
Were you worried before your visit here about coronavirus?
I was really, really worried. And I'm so scared right now. And when I'm going out, I'm even scared because I have to pick Uber from home to wherever I go to. I am just so scared. And I'm hoping for the best. And I believe it will go down. I'm so sure about it.
So I'm here with a management member for one of the companies that put together this facility. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Emma Wura, and I'm with EPP Book Services. Simply, it's for public safety. As you all know, we are not in times where we are all happy. Corona is with us. It has brought a lot of fear. And 4 companies, National Express, EPP Books, Zealand Fun World, and Tesbury Foods and Supermarket came together to provide a hand washing facility here so that the public can wash their hands as they come and shop. We want them to keep safe. We want them to live long. We don't want anybody to contact the coronavirus. Actually, if you are driving towards Medina or going to town and you feel you have not washed your hands in a long while, just come, park, come down and wash your hands before you continue your journey. We just want to make sure that citizens are safe.
There's a wonderful innovation, one that I recommend to all corporate institutions in Ghana to also take a cue from.
Our very own Fred Smith there, head of our health desk, with that report. So don't forget to wash your hands properly. Use the proper method. Wash it for at least 20 seconds and make sure you get all the different corners of your hands. Stay safe out there. Keep watching this station. If you want to update yourself on the world of news, go to myjoyonline.com. We've got headlines waiting for you there. Well, until the next edition of The Pulse, it's been a pleasure. My name is Kojo Yankson. Thank you especially for watching.